Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video and hope you guys are doing well today. So we did the best tanks in Kata, now it's time for the best healers in Kata. And I'm excited for this one because whilst the tanks ended up defaulting into quite specific roles, the healers are a little bit more flexible. So in Cataclysm we have 5 healer specs: Holy Paladin, Resto Druid, Disc Priest, Holy Priest, and Resto Shaman. I'm going to go through each of them individually, explain kind of the good, the bad, and the indifferent, as well as how viable and how common I expect them to be, and then talk a little bit about comps at the end. So let's get into it. Holy Paladin is the first one I'm going to talk about, and in Wrath it's almost untouchably good. It was pretty much your default choice for your Valaniers. Every raid group has one, every raid comp wants one. It maintains a lot of its strength going into Kata. They're still exceptionally good tank healers, if not the strongest on the list, but can now also, with a few changes and additions like Holy Radiance and Light of Dawn, actually be able to raid heal fairly comfortably. They still prefer being in melee, but that does allow them to generate additional holy power with Crusader Strike that allows them to create very, very efficient heals, as well as get mana back from Seal of Insight, similar to how they do in Wrath. Now, Holy Paladins are going to be one of the most common healers I expect to see in Kata Classic, for two reasons. One, we already have so many Holy Paladins in Wrath, they're naturally going to be leveled up in Kata. And two, because if you enjoy Holy Pally in Wrath, of which a lot of people do, there are a few changes, but they're mostly positives, and I expect it to be more of the same. So Holy Paladins in a good spot. Resto Druid then. Ironically, in my experience of Kata so far, Resto Druids are probably one of the less represented healers, but it's unfair to say it's because they're bad or weak. They actually fulfill both roles of tank healing or priority healing and raid healing at about 90%, which makes them an excellent secondary healer in a 10-man raid comp, or quite a easy addition to a 25-man healing team. Most of your GCDs as Resto Druid will be made up of very low cost-efficient heals, but no big, like, overwhelming raid heals. So Rejuve is extremely efficient if it won't overheal. Wild Growth is 5 or 6 targets with a glyph. Again, amazing if everyone is taking damage. Nourish is a decently efficient single target spammable heal, which is low cost, low healing. And Healing Touch is your very, very long, very expensive heal that can heal extreme amounts alongside your mastery. Now, I expect Resto Druid to be extremely viable as an off healer in a raid comp, holding a flexible role and adapting to different fights. So, what I mean by this is like on certain fights, let's say Chimeron in Blackwing Descent, right? Very, very heavy damage fight, but you don't need to spam heal, it's very targeted healing. As a druid, you're very good at the two people that have just been hit by slime, rejuve on both, forget about them. The tanks, keep a couple of hots on both, forget about them. That's literally your whole job in that, and you will pretty much be able to keep everyone above that 10k health marker very easily. Whereas on other fights like Nefarian, where you absolutely have to pump healing into everyone, being able to put a efflorescence, being able to put down a wild growth, having Trank as a raid cooldown, they can do massive amounts of raid healing, and just a couple of hots on the tank to keep him up. So they do add quite a lot as an off healer, but I wouldn't want them as a main tank healer or a main raid healer. Disc Priest. Now, this is going to be the secondary healer to most Holy Pallies in an ideal 10-man on Wrath, and a common core healing team in 25-man, and Kata doesn't change that. By default, Disc still brings strong absorbs, and a good Disc Priest playing the absorb build will be a godsend. However, Disc has a secondary playstyle available to them in Cataclysm, Atonement. This is the introduction of DPS to heal kind of mechanics. Your Smite and Holy Fire will cause healing to the nearest low health friendly target. This means that on low damage fights, Priest will actually be able to DPS for the majority of the fight, use smart healing to sort people up, and actually provide some helpful DPS numbers. Currently in Kata, Holy Pala and Disc Priest still remains the most common healing team, and it's not difficult to see why. Holy Pally provides the heavy lifting in HPS, whilst Disc provides absorbs and smart healing through Atonement, whilst also being able to put out interesting raid-wide shields through Power Word Shield as well as Prayer of Healing, actually. Some people really do like Atonement and some people don't. That's fair. But Disc Priest has a completely viable spec that doesn't run with it. So if you don't like it, don't panic. Holy Priest is easily the least represented healer I've seen so far in Kata, and it suffers with little brother syndrome. Disc is exceptionally good, so why play Holy? It's also very versatile, so why play Holy? Now, Holy actually provides a lot of HPS and throughput in Kata when it needs to. With the addition of chakras, Holy can buff one specific type of healing and swap at relatively short notice to the other type. However, in a raid comp, Holy Priest should always be assigned to raid healing and raid healing only. The output potential of their raid healing is nearly unparalleled to other classes, and it just pumps. It won't do great on mana, especially early tiers, but it really can put out severe amounts of healing. Holy Priest will provide. Holy Priest will be very good 25-man healer, but we overshadowed by Disc very often in 10-man. Resto Shami also provides a similar function in 10-man, whilst being able to heal the tanks much better. Now let's talk about Resto Shami. Still my personal favourite healer in Wrath and Kata. Not much changes in Kata with Resto Shami other than the addition of Healing Rain, a high cost, extremely high healing AoE ability similar to Efflorescence or Holywood Sanctuary that's basically ground targeted AoE that just pumps. In fights that allow stacking, Resto Shaman will absolutely shine. It genuinely will be one of the strongest healers in fights that allow people to just stack up in a clump. Reading directly from Tory Veins, which was taken from the old school Icy Veins guides, Resto Shaman are neither pure tank or raid healers, rather they shine when they do both at once. And that is precisely correct. And this is for me is why Resto Shamans are amazing as a third healer option. Now, not a lot of 10-mans are going to run 3 healers very often, but there are fights where it's needed almost in every tier, especially during progress. They're not likely to be strong enough to take either role from the other healer, but rather be just a good addition when necessary. In 25-man, they were added to a comp extremely well just because of how versatile they are. It doesn't off-balance tank or raid healing, it just increases both well. So that's my overview of all the healers so far. Just talking through a couple of comps that I imagine will be played relatively often. In 10-mans, Holy Paladin and Disc Priest, as we've talked about, is likely going to be the go-to 10-man comp. Probably with a Resto Shaman as like an off-spec just to fit in as needed. Holy Paladin, Resto Shami, Holy Priest, or Resto Druid will do insane amounts of throughput, but minimal absorbs and a lot less healing versatility. Finally then, Resto Shami and Disc Priest, or Resto Shami, Resto Druid, is a comp I've played a few times. It leaves the Resto Shaman to focus on the tank healing, which they absolutely can do with a couple of talent changes and glyph changes, without allowing the residual healing to... with allowing the residual healing through like Healing Stream Totem and things like that to just top off the raid. Resto Druid works decent for this, just blanketing the raid as well. In 25-man, I'm going to just talk about what I'm expecting to see in almost every raid team. So I'm expecting to see Holy Pally, Disc Priest. That's going to be your core 3 in a 5-man healing team, with Resto Shami, Resto Druid, and Holy Priest just slotted in to suit the fights. I'd personally always run a Resto Shaman. Again, I love them. Spirit Link is insane in some fights to be able to heal through mechanics, and it almost always just brings more throughput to both roles rather than outbalancing them. And again, if you ever stacked, Healing Rain is god tier. I then expect you to fit maybe, in a 5-man healing team, you could absolutely run Holy Power, Disc, Holy Priest, Resto Druid, Resto Sham, drop one of the last 3. Once you start getting further into progress, I imagine you'd probably run Holy Pally, Disc, Resto Sham, and that's probably the 25-man healing team that I would run personally. So, anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm really, really interested to hear your thoughts on this, and thanks for watching. Catch you later.